Good afternoon, Judge Showers.
Afternoon, everyone. Great to see you.
That's the only seat left in the room, so you get to.
I'll gladly take
All
it.
right.
And I did bring my water in here, so I thought I was okay in spite of the
Yes.
signs outside. But
Fair enough. We've got ours as well. You can start your remarks whenever you're ready.
Well, hello, everyone. Again, my name's Shawn Showers. I am a district court judge in the 8th Judicial District. That covers pretty much all of southeast Iowa. We got 14 counties and 15 courthouses, and I'm the only applicant from the 8th District, so I'm humbled and honored to be that applicant for our district. My wife, Megan, our kids, and myself, and our hound dog, we live in the town of Washington. That's in Washington County, which is the county seat of Washington. Washington is the county seat of Washington County. And there are three primary reasons why I've applied for this position, because I think I'm the best candidate. The first is my extensive trial experience in high-level cases. Second is my common sense and rural Iowa work ethic. And last, but not least, I don't think, is my uncommon understanding of what it takes to be a Court of Appeals judge and what they do. With respect to the trial experience, I've got extensive jury trial experience as a district court judge, a prosecutor, and a defense attorney. I feel that stands out. I've been specially assigned to 6 Class A murder cases in 6.5 years as a district court judge by the chief judges in our district. I've presided over numerous other felony criminal jury trials, civil trials that are to both the bench and to the court and to the jury. And I just think my rural legal and non-legal background stands out a little bit. A Southern Iowa judge, trial judge perspective is not currently on the Court of Appeals. And just kind of an indication of what I do day to day. I write my own rulings. I travel around the 8th District. I type most of my own orders. Our district may not have the same resources as maybe some of the more urban or appellate courts do. So I am self-sufficient by nature and by necessity. And my orders and rulings are filed in a prompt manner. I've never had a ruling out more than 60 days pursuant to the 2210 ruling reporting requirements. Every litigant deserves their day in court, and when I'm presiding, they get that along with the prompt decision. And I think there's a second reason that I had mentioned earlier. That goes to my common sense and my rural Iowa work ethic. I think it just comes second nature to me. It allows me to get these decisions rendered in a fair and efficient way. I have a steady temperament, and I carefully consider the evidence and counsel's arguments in all of my cases. I think I have a keen understanding of what abuse of discretion is because I exercise it regularly. A little bit more about me. I was born in Leon, which is about 70 miles south of here. I graduated, my graduating class from Mormon Trail was 16 kids. My dad was a farmer. His dad was a farmer. His dad was a farmer. Taught me about hard work, accountability, and integrity. And my mom imparted on me the values of compassion, empathy, and curiosity. My sisters and I were first-generation college graduates, fifth-generation Iowans, and I offer these attributes as perspectives to the Court of Appeals. Finally, I do also have experience as an elected official. I was the Washington County Attorney, and currently I serve on the Judicial Branch IT Committee, and I'm very comfortable with technology both in and outside of the courtroom. The final reason I cited earlier why I believe you should nominate me was the uncommon understanding I think I have about what it takes to be a Court of Appeals judge. While working next to now senior Court of Appeals Judge Mike Mullins, I observed and learned a lot from him. I know the Court of Appeals is a very busy court. over 1,200 cases during a slow year. And I know the position requires teamwork and collaboration. There's not time for grudges because there's always more work to do. The Court of Appeals is a notoriously collegial court. They handle criminal law, juvenile law, civil appeals, among other appeals. And I've been an assistant county attorney. I've been a public defender. I've been an elected county attorney, and I've been a district court judge. And I feel confident in issuing rulings on all of these subject matters. I firmly believe an experienced rural trial court judge with my experience would be an asset to the current Court of Appeals, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. We'll start our questions with Commissioner Graber.
Thank you for spending your time with us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you for your application. Let's imagine that you get the position and there's a hot case that your panel of 3 on the Court of Appeals is working on. You're the one that is out of agreement with the other 2. How do you deal with that?
Well, there's going to be some robust debate at the beginning. Certainly, I know enough to know that I don't know everything. So it's, as often is the case, based on my experience, just being next to Judge Mullins, there are cases he dissented on, or it was a 2-1 decision. Often, most of the time, there are 3 judge panels. If I thought that I was right on the law and the facts, and you couldn't persuade me, then I would write a respectful dissent. But I just think everybody on the court, and I know, I think all the judges currently on the court understand that that's a professional dispute and not a personal dispute. And like I said, you don't have time for grudges. So I would do what I think was what the law required me to do. But yeah, certainly in a respectful way to the other judges.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Chase?
Thank you. We've talked a little bit today about judicial independence. I know you've had several high-profile cases. You and I talked about that. Just share with the commission how public perception or outside influences might weigh on you as you were making decisions at the Court of Appeals level.
Well, as a district court judge, really those, if it was a high-profile case where media was involved, first thing I would usually have to deal with would be a request for expanded media coverage, and then have a meeting with the attorneys or hearing with the attorneys about whether that should be granted or not. So you have to be aware of those high-profile cases, but not in any way allow the noise to influence your decision. You have to be guided by what the law is, what the facts are, and then whether you have a jury trial and you're instructing the jury, or whether you're having a sentencing, you are held within the parameters of what the law is, and that's the restraint that every good judge practices.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Pearson?
Thank you. Thank you. You commented, obviously, we know you come from a rural background, and you feel that's important to have that representation on the Court of Appeals. What specifically, what do you think your rural background would bring then to the Court of Appeals?
Work ethic is a reflex in rural Iowa. It's not something you think about. It's just ingrained. The other thing about graduating with 16 classmates or working with I have 5 other district court judges in my district, or people every day, is you build those relationships with your colleagues, whether they be judges or staff. And those relationships, from what I've experienced with Judge Mullins and the other judges, they are not just colleagues, but they oftentimes become lifelong friends with their staff and their other judges. So coming from a rural background and being able to work with the same people day in and day out, along with that work ethic and just, that Iowa common sense that you get that you might not see in a suburban or an urban area, I think sets me apart.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Markwart?
You've talked a lot about common sense. What does that look like when applied to the Court of Appeals position?
Well, so you start with volume. You've got a lot of cases to decide, and you've got to get from point A to point B. And the way I've tried to describe it is getting from point A to point B without, with eliminating as much nonsense in between as you possibly can. So I talked a little about ignoring the noise. You've got a job to do, and you need to work with your fellow judges and staff. So common sense is really how to approach a task without getting distracted with ancillary issues or, you know, a squirrel outside, which would be easy to do. But, you know, with the work you have and the job that you have and how serious it is, people are waiting for your rulings to move on with their lives. And that's, you know, goes to me issuing my rulings promptly. People should not be waiting for the results from judges, and they should be working vigorously and together to get those decisions issued, and that's where common sense comes in. Thank you.
Commissioner Henderson?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Parrish?
Judge Showers, I want to go back in your career earlier. You bring a unique perspective, both as a prosecutor and a defense lawyer. At certain times, the skill set that you develop in both of those arenas, number one, when you have to exercise prosecutorial discretion as to whether or not you bring a charge. And with a client where you're sitting with a difficult case, whether or not to go to trial or do a plea. With those skill sets, can you share with us how you, in both of those aspects of our criminal justice system, how you went about making those decisions and the skill set that you could bring from that experience to the Court of Appeals?
Yeah, and if you go from being a prosecutor and deciding what charges to bring or which cases you're going to take to trial or maybe offer a plea offer to, as a prosecutor, you're really the one that makes that call. And what's justice for the community, the victim, the defendant, and our system is, it's a quasi-judicial role as a prosecutor. And I did that for 7.5 years, and I enjoyed that and working with law enforcement and the community. The difference with the defense case is your client, as much as you may want to control what they do or what they say, in large part, they're driving the bus. So if you've never had a client and you're judge and maybe you're reading the cold record, you might be scratching your head while I'm thinking about a case that I handled in Mahaska County in 2013 and maybe, you know, getting PTSD or humor from a situation I dealt with a client. So any trial judge or trial attorney, from whatever perspective, brings a richness to the appellate courts, because when they're reading the transcript, you're also thinking about, well, what was going on with the jury at this time, and you know what other things were going on. So I just think those two different perspectives, along with my judicial perspectives, make me the ideal candidate for the position.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hoig?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hoytink?
Can you describe what civil litigation experience you might have, or whether it's a trial judge or a practicing attorney?
Yeah, so the main type of cases I did for civil cases would be, if you're including family law cases, I do that. That's about half of what I do. Divorce, custody cases. If you want to talk about trial experience or jury trial experience, breach of contract jury trials, I've had negligent misrepresentation jury trials, general negligence jury trial, civil cases that I've dealt with, and they've been probably couldn't count them for you off the top of my head, but in 6.5 years as a district court judge, I've been ruling and presiding over civil matters about half of the time for my caseload. And I also married to my wife has a private practice experience, so she can tell me when I'm wrong at home and in the workplace.
I'm sure that'll happen. Thank you.
Commissioner Schnur?
As a district court judge, and kind of builds off the question you just answered, I want you to address for us your experience handling jury trials and how that will inform you if you get on the Court of Appeals reviewing jury trial verdicts that come to you on appeal, whether it's civil or criminal.
Well, the first thing that I learned quickly as a district court judge, I did 6 jury trials in 6 months in Wapello County, which is a tough one, some civil, some criminal. And the thing that not only was I kind of surprised with how many we did right off the bat, but the protection I had over those jurors, and maintaining the integrity of the process. So that is very important to me as a trial judge. And certainly if your appeal is to the Court of Appeals, most of the time if you have an appeal, the Court of Appeals is your last chance to get your case decided if it didn't go your way. As a trial judge, I wanted to do it right the first time. I always wanted to do it right the first time, protecting all the litigants in a civil case or in a criminal case, the defendant's rights with the rights of the state, but understanding that lawyers, judges, jurors, staff, we're human beings, and there are hiccups that happen, and I could give you several hiccups that happen during a jury trial. I'm sure you're very familiar with those, Mr. Schnur, but I think just appreciating the unpredictability a jury trial has. If an appellate court judge doesn't have that experience, I'm not saying they couldn't be a good appellate court judge, I just think that would be a detriment to them. I think it's one of my main assets.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Roberts?
No questions.
Commissioner Summerall?
No questions.
Commissioner Picklop?
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Stanger?
Good afternoon, Judge.
Afternoon.
Thank you for applying. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
One of the qualities we heard in selecting our judge today that we should look for is judicial independence. Can you touch on your view of judicial independence and how you could maintain that by joining the Court of Appeals?
Well, if it's just in the context of there being 3 branches of government that all have different roles, I believe I've got a pretty good handle on the role the judiciary has as opposed to the legislative body and the governor, who are the policymakers, who are the court. You get the cases and you are hearing them, and whether it's a civil case, criminal case, no matter what kind of case, you hear the facts, you either know the law or you figure out what the law is, and then you apply them. So with independence, every judge brings their own perspective to the court. Personal views certainly are not, they're checked at the door when you're coming in to decide a case, because you decide a case on the facts and the law. So I think that's one way to keep your independence. One way it's with the Court of Appeals, you got 2 other judges on most cases, so you're collaborating with them. So while you're independent, I mean, from like a separation of powers perspective, you depend on your other judges. It's really important to collaborate and work and have debate with the other judges on the Court of Appeals. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, you hit 2 great aspects of that concept. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We have time for one more quick question. Commissioner Hanson?
No questions. I don't have a quick one, but.
I'm not surprised, Leon.
No, having you up here before you, I'm familiar with your skills as a judge. And I appreciate your bringing up your comfort with technology, and how do you see it creeping into future cases that might be before you, before the Court of Appeals?
Well, my goal is not to scare anybody here with AI, so I won't talk too much about that, because that's a lot of the new education on the legal industry, and every industry is AI. But just so in the 2010 to 2015 range, we went to electronic filing as a court system. When I started in 2008, we did it the old-fashioned way. I went up to the Cerro Gordo County Attorney's clerk of court, and I filed things the old-fashioned way. But I know how to, obviously file things. I type my own rulings, and I, with COVID, we did a lot of remote hearings, so I know how to work the equipment. Do go to meetings, Zoom. Some of you may have met me that way before today. So I'm comfortable in and out of the courtroom with technology. I've got a phone in my pocket. Got most of my life on it apparently now. I think everybody's in the same boat. So
Guard it carefully.
yes, very very guarded. So.
Thank you. Our time is up, but we appreciate your application and wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Judge.